Welcome to day 5 of the Common Sense Journey. But before I continue, I will want to appreciate those that reached out to discuss and demand on how they will access the Common Sense cards. And obviously, they are using it to build their seventh sense and also is going to serve as their pocket university to be used, applied, and deployed at every point of their life, any way they want it, whether it's going to be from a domestic perspective or from that industrial perspective. Today, I'll be focusing on something very, very crucial and very important that if you're able to grasp the entire perspective, it will change your life in no meantime. And that is the matter of decision making. Decision is very crucial. As a matter of fact, I think it's one of the most crucial thing we do in life because this is what decides who we are, what we were, what we are, and what we are ever going to be. Decision is everything. In context, there is really nothing called destiny because every destiny is a destination, and every destination emanates from the kind of decisions we make. What separates men and women? The one factor that gives other people leverage above others in a competitive world is the quality of their decisions. Because life will throw at you so many kind of options. The good, the bad, and the ugly. The skill and competence to make the right choice that will move you forward is actually what gives everybody leverage. Sometimes we are so educated in all aspects of our life, but the one aspect we fail to develop ourselves is the capacity to make proper decisions. And without that capacity, you may work too hard and get too little results. Without that capacity, you may invest so much in the wrong thing and get the wrong result. And so, for that reason, I'm paying attention to lay the foundation just so that I can enable you to build that capacity to engage a year that is very, very fragile. Now, for you to understand decision, let me lay some few contexts. We discussed decision on two planes, what we call the vertical plane and then the horizontal plane. At the horizontal plane, you look at decision from an operational perspective. You look at decision from a tactical perspective, and then you look at decision from a strategic perspective. But from that vertical plane, you're looking at decisions at four different levels. You have what we call macro decision, you have micro decision, you have cellular decision, and then you have atomic decision. Each of these decisions energizes the next phase. And therefore, if you're not able to make a proper decision at an atomic or cellular level, it becomes difficult for you to achieve micro targets. And if you cannot achieve micro targets, it's almost impossible for you to achieve your macro target or vision. So let me give you an example. For instance, I want to be the president of a country. Anyone can decide to be the president of a country. But the discussion will first begin at a macro level. To be a president, what do you need to understand? You need to understand politics. You need to understand leadership. You need to understand the history of your nation. You need to understand policy formation. You need to understand statecraft. These are all the things you need to understand properly. Governance, negotiation, lobbying. You need to understand all of this, interest and advocacy. You need to understand it before you say you're dealing and you're working at that presidency level where you call your macro vision. But before you get there, there's another phase on that you have to handle properly. Otherwise, you may not get to the bigger one. And that is called the micro level. Now, for your micro level to be able to enable the macro level when you want to be a president, You must also learn to have built some very strong social skills. Because it's not when you want to be a president, that's when you start building the network and the network that will help you get there. No, it takes years, sometimes as much as 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Sometimes it is transgenerational. But the idea is that you're very intentional in building capacity for yourself, in building a community of like mind, people who share the same ideology and value, who believe enough that you should get to that top. So they build themselves to become institutions, position themselves at an institutional level just so that they can build that critical mass, that force and energy that will propel you to get to this phase for which you can make that discussion of being the presidency. So at that level, you call it the micro level. But before you get to that micro level, there's also the smallest unit, what you may call a marriage, for instance. So the man or the woman, if you get into a wrong marriage, or if you marry the wrong man or the wrong woman, it becomes difficult for you to be able to engage people freely. It becomes difficult for you to develop social skills to the point you can expand it and build that critical mass. Without that emotional balance at home, it becomes almost impossible for you to have that sanity enough for you to plan for something bigger. And so that is what we call the cellular level. Something small, independent by itself, but interdependent in the bigger picture. And then for you to marry, male or female, also depends on what you call your principles, your values, and your ethics. Because these are what will qualify what you call she is my spec, he is my spec. Because those dream and personal interventions, these are what will qualify your vision board. Therefore, the woman you see will be dependent on the quality of who you are as a person. The kind of man you accommodate and tolerate depends on the quality of your standard and your principles. So, at the grand scheme of things, when you put this vertical journey together, you get to realize that at an atomic level, who you are, what you are, and the kind of decisions and options you make would decide what will happen at that cellular level of a unit called marriage or a relationship. What you are at that level is what would decide what you be in the society, how you connect with people, the freedom, the comfort to network with people and build a community. That community would decide how you function as a president. So if you understand that, you realize that these are different levels of decision craft. Ability to understand how the work can affect each other is what helps you get that target, that vision to make it a reality. Unfortunately, we have invested in almost every kind of skill. But one skill that most of the time we've not invested in has been the decision making skill. And this begins with one big error. And the error is when you hear people say, don't judge. And as a matter of fact, I will tell you for free that anyone who cannot judge is a coward. And I'm not calling you a coward from an insulting perspective, it's from a descriptive perspective. Who is a coward? Anyone that don't have the capacity to confront a choice. That is a coward. Because life at every point in time will always give you that opportunity to make a choice. Sometimes it can be between the black and the white. Sometimes it can be between the green and the yellow. Sometimes it can be between good and evil. But ultimately, you must take a side. Ultimately, you must make a choice. Ultimately, you must take an option at every point in time. But the challenge is that most people cannot effectively make that choice. And the reason is simple, because somehow you've been taught not to judge. Permit me to go a little bit deeper to appreciate our discussion. What really is judge? If you do a little bit study, etymology, to try to find out the different sources of the word, the derivatives that come together to make up the word judge, one of the key things you will see is to critically evaluate, is to audit, is to analyze, is to question and interrogate a matter, a thing, a place, or a process. So when I say don't judge, it simply means what I have said is I have stopped you from bringing into effect your faculty of life of choice making, the faculty of decision making. So, what means is I have weakened you. I have stopped you. I have killed your courage to confront choice and options, and I weakened you. And I guess this is because people mistake judge and condemnation. Now, condemn is different. Condemn is finality. It's like a box. And so you don't put somebody in a box and then you finalize on them. That is what no mortal has the right to do. Because even a person in the place of, death still has a hope of anything happening afterwards. So no mortal has the right to condemn a person, bring that finality, and just close shop about a human being. But when it comes to judge, you cannot make decisions except you learn how to judge. Because how will you make decisions? How will you choose between options if you don't know how to select the good, the bad, and the ugly? How can you do that if you don't know how to scale between principles, values, and ethics, between standards, between your visions, your directions, what you want out of life? The reason why most people are in the place of toxicity today, and some people are in the place of mental health and difficult lifestyle, is because they don't have that capacity to make decisions, that capacity to judge. It is your duty to learn to judge. Because if you don't learn the skills of judging, of critically evaluating a person, place, thing, or institution, it means you have opened yourself to anything is possible, and the damage is yours. You will be the victim at the end of the day. So I leave you with a caveat. You need to understand that the capacity to evaluate another person also comes with the responsibility that that person has also the right and the responsibility also to evaluate you. So, why I say learn to judge, it is your duty to also judge what I have said, whether it sits in the context of humanity, of growth, of development, of being a better person, of optimization, of being good. Because what is the essence of not being able to critically evaluate you, what you hear, what you listen, how you hear it, and how you listen to it, where you heard it, and where you listen to it? If you're not able to evaluate them, then you open your heart and make it very porous. Your ears become so open for even things that can corrupt who you are. So for here, I'll stop here today. And just to remind you that the work of common sense is to build the capacity for you to engage life, to qualify life and make the kind of meaning for which you want out of it. And that, again, why it is called the seventh sense. Welcome you to the seventh sense community. See you soon.